I really believe that you see the most egregious example of this in our willingness to redefine the meaning of man and woman. Because my psychological studies have led me to the presumption that there might not be any more fundamental perceptual category than man and woman, than male and female. And there's the direct perception of that on the biological front, which is a precondition for successful reproduction, we should point out, in case it has to be pointed out. And then there are symbolic echoes of masculine and feminine that pervade almost everything we conceptualize. So you see that echoed, for example, in the Taoist conception of reality as yin and yang, which is a masculine and feminine dichotomy. There's this bipolarity of cognition that has as its fundamental basis the distinction between the sexes. And, you know, when Canada moved in 2016 to force the reconstruction of pronouns onto unsuspecting population in the name of compassionate narcissism, I thought, well, because this is such a fundamental cognitive category, if we introduce entropy into it, if we introduce disorder, then we're going to destabilize those who are already quite disordered, and the most likely to be destabilized in that manner would be adolescent girls, because there's historical precedent for that. And so this idiot insistence that all conceptions are up for grabs belies the fact that there's a hierarchy of perception in relationship to the different degrees of depths of different perceptions. And it replaces hierarchical order not with the freedom that's promised by the Marxists and the liberals, but with absolute bloody, intolerable chaos. And I do believe that we're in a Tower of Babel situation in a real sense, is that we've become intellectually pretentious beyond belief. We're building scaffolds that are in principle designed to replace God. And now we've reached impasse where we no longer speak the same language. We can't even decide what constitutes a man and what constitutes a woman. And if you can't agree on that, then I don't think there's anything that you can agree on.
And so if you ask, you know, what does the individual, man or woman, today facing this permanent cultural revolution, which is uprooting the most fundamental things that have been inherited, the most fundamental concepts that we use to understand reality are being smashed. So where do they turn? And here I understand that this could be controversial for all sorts of people, but I think the bottom line is that if you see the revolution coming, you understand it's going to destroy everything. You understand there's going to literally be nothing that is not uprooted. If you see this, what's the force that could stop it? Well, the force that could stop it is fundamentally young men and young women, young families, older men and older women, going to that institution which continues to hand down traditions intact, which is in our society is almost only at this point the church, the Orthodox churches. Orthodox, I mean theologically, traditionally, whether they're Catholic or Protestant or Orthodox doctrinally, or the synagogue or some other traditional community in which a life of conservation and transmission is actually taking place. It begins with young people saying, "Look, I need to be part of a community." But the next step is to say it can't just be, any arbitrary community. It can't be, like a bunch of 18-year-olds in a dorm room. We're going to set up a community because they're not actually.
That's a gang, not a community.
Right, they're not engaged in conserving and transmitting anything. All right, and so the only way that you can plug yourself into the chain of conservation and transmission, which has been lost, is to find older people who've seen it done. I mean, you're not going to be able to keep a marriage together if you don't have actual living models of older people who have succeeded in keeping a marriage together, so you can see what it's like, so that you can pick it up from them. And the same thing is true for everything else. If you want to save yourself, right? I mean, I think this is true nationally also, but at the moment, if you as an individual, you want to save yourself. Now, I'm not talking about the Christian question about like your eternal salvation. I'm Jewish. I'm talking about you want to save yourself in this life, in this world, all right? And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to, I know this is difficult, but you're going to have to go to older people who have a functioning congregation and say, look, I'm coming here to learn. I'm not coming here to judge you. I'm not coming here to preach the things I believe. I'm coming here to learn how a life of conservation and transmission used to work. I want to learn that to see whether I can be part of it. Right? That is a very big change. The best way to fight the oncoming revolution is, as you say, the oncoming chaos is with order, and but you can't create that order yourself. You have to be a part of some existing order, and luckily it still exists.